Okay, so picture this. It's Texas in the 70s, big hair, even bigger oil money, and a mansion so big it had a 2,000 square foot master bedroom. Sounds like a dream, right?
It does.
Well, for Priscilla Davis, this dream turned into a total nightmare.
Yeah.
We're diving into the case of Priscilla and Colin Davis.
It's a story that is crazy, full of wealth and infidelity.
And murder.
Yes, a tragic double murder at their home, Stonegate Mansion.
We're using a Morbid Network episode to guide our deep dive. They did a bunch of research, used court records, interviews, you name it.
This one is wild.
Truly stranger than fiction.
One thing that makes this case so interesting is that it shows the dark side of wealth and privilege. Makes you wonder if money can buy you justice.
Yeah, for sure. To understand what happened, we need to rewind. We need to get to know Priscilla before all the Texas high society stuff. She didn't start out in a fancy mansion.
Right. She started out in a small town in Texas, far from the glitz and glamour.
Yeah, her early life wasn't easy. Multiple marriages, abandonment.
She always seemed to be looking for something more, searching for a better life.
Like it was just out of reach.
Exactly.
Her first marriage, at 16, ended with her husband leaving her and their daughter.
It was rough. Forced her back to the town she was trying to escape.
Yeah, that's a tough break. But Priscilla, she was a fighter.
Yeah, she was resilient. She married again, a guy named Jack Wilborn. They moved to the suburbs of Fort Worth.
Had a couple more kids, Jack Jr. and Andrea.
And for a while, things seemed pretty good. Country clubs, social events, the whole 9 yards.
The picture-perfect suburban life.
Right. On the surface, anyway.
But, like all good stories, there's more to it. Behind that perfect facade, things weren't so rosy.
No, not at all. Jack's behavior changed. He became abusive. Really took a toll on Priscilla.
She was stuck.
Yeah.
Financially dependent, and with no real identity of her own.
Trapped.
It's hard to imagine how difficult that must have been for her. But this is where Priscilla takes control.
Yes. She goes through a total transformation, changes her look, embraces a more glamorous style.
Almost like she's trying to break free from that old life, find herself again.
Reclaiming her identity, for sure. She became this glamorous figure, kind of like the big sex symbols of the time. Think,
Marilyn Monroe.
Exactly.
And this new Priscilla is the one who catches the eye of Colin Davis.
Right.
Yeah, they met at a tennis match. At the country club, of course. Surrounded by all that wealth and status.
It's like something out of a movie. And the crazy thing is, they were both married when they met. Unhappily, but still.
Right, both stuck in marriages that weren't working. And their affair, it's what really sets this whole story in motion.
Talk about a scandal.
Yes.
Leads to big confrontations with their spouses. Divorce.
It was a whole orchestrated thing. Jack, Priscilla's husband, he suspected something was up. So he got together with Colin's wife, Sandra, hired a private investigator.
Wow.
And they basically ambushed them at the Green Oaks Inn.
No way.
Oh, yeah, when they got back from a secret trip to Acapulco.
Oh.
Talk about awkward. So both marriages end, and Priscilla and Colin, they're free to start their whirlwind romance.
They wasted no time. They got married in 1968. The same day, Colin inherited fortune from his father. Talk about timing.
Like it was meant to be.
Fate, maybe?
Or irony.
Maybe a bit of both. But suddenly, they're living a life of unbelievable wealth. Their lifestyle was legendary. Extravagant doesn't even begin to describe it.
They built Stonegate Mansion.
Right. This sprawling palace. They had these huge parties.
A 2,000 square foot bedroom.
And Priscilla, she even had a diamond necklace that spelled out Rich B.
Oh, I've heard about that necklace. So it seems like Priscilla was finally living the life she always wanted.
Yeah, the dream life.
But I have a feeling it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
You're right. Behind all the money and the parties, a darker story was unfolding.
What do you mean?
People who knew them, they started talking, telling stories about Cullen. He was abusive, not just to Priscilla, but to her daughter, too.
Oh, no. What kind of abuse?
Physical violence, emotional manipulation, really controlling. There was even the story about Cullen hurting a kitten, just to be cruel. That's awful. To think that Priscilla was living in fear, even in that incredible mansion. It's a reminder that money doesn't buy happiness or safety.
Exactly. It's a stark contrast, isn't it? The lavish lifestyle on one hand and then this dark secret on the other.
So when does Priscilla finally decide she's had enough?
In 1974, she files for divorce. She had the support of her maid, Karora.
That's a brave decision.
It was huge to stand up to a man like Cullen, especially with all his money and power.
I bet he wasn't happy about it.
Not at all. The divorce was messy. Cullen was furious. He didn't want to give up any of his money.
And that anger, it just kept growing. Foreshadowing, maybe?
Yeah, you could say that, because now we're getting close to the night of the murders. It's August 2nd, 1976. Priscilla is out with her boyfriend, Stan Farr. They're coming home from dinner, seemingly happy, ready for a new chapter.
But they walk into a nightmare.
Right. They get back to the mansion, and there are signs that something is wrong. A bloody handprint on the basement door. The security system is messed up.
That's creepy. And then, out of nowhere, this figure appears. Dressed in black, wearing a wig.
Like something out of a horror movie.
The intruder says one word. Hi.
Hi!
That's so strange.
And then shoots Priscilla in the stomach.
Oh my God.
Chaos. Stan jumps in to help, but he's shot multiple times. Priscilla, even though she's hurt, she manages to run out of the house. The intruder chases her.
She's running for her life.
Yeah. But the intruder catches her, tries to drag her back to the house. Somehow she gets free, hides in the bushes, waiting for help. It's like something out of a nightmare.
And what about her kids? Weren't they inside?
Yeah, her daughter, Andrea, was there.
Oh, no. This is just awful.
Priscilla's friends, Bev Bass and Bubba Gavel, they arrive at the house. They have no idea what's going on.
They just walked into a crime scene.
Gavel tries to confront the intruder, but he gets shot too. Later, he ended up paralyzed. It's just chaos everywhere.
And Priscilla, what happens to her?
She's terrified, wounded. She goes to the neighbors for help. She's convinced that Cullen is inside killing everyone. Ugh, wow. So, as things calm down, the full horror of the night becomes clear. Stan Farr, dead. And Priscilla's daughter, Andrea.
They found her body in the basement. She was only 12 years old.
This is just heartbreaking. And of course, everyone suspects Cullen.
Immediately, both Priscilla and Bev Bass, they both identified him as the attacker.
Without talking to each other first.
Nope. They hadn't had a chance to compare notes or anything. They both picked him out. He was arrested, but then...
But then what?
He got released on a ridiculously low bond, the reason. He was drunk, and they didn't think he would hurt anyone else.
Drunk? After all that?
Yeah, it seemed like his wealth and status might have played a role in that decision.
Wow. So even with eyewitnesses, he's free to go.
Pretty much. And that's just the beginning. Because now we're headed to a trial that captivated the entire nation. A grieving mother against a powerful Texas oil tycoon.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
This trial, with all the money and influence involved, it feels like the whole country was watching.
Yeah, definitely. It shows how wealth can impact things. Not just the legal system, but public opinion, too. The defense, they had this flashy lawyer, Richard Racehorse Haynes. He immediately went after Priscilla.
Racehorse Haynes? I think I've heard that name.
He was a huge deal in Texas, known for being super smart, theatrical in court, and winning impossible cases.
So Cullen had a real legal superstar on his side. What did they do? What was their approach?
Haynes, he was great at creating doubt. So instead of saying Cullen didn't do it, they focused on making people question Priscilla.
Like attacking her character.
Right. They said she was greedy, that she wanted more of Cullen's money in the divorce, so maybe she made up the whole thing.
Wow. Blaming the victim, who just lost her daughter and boyfriend. That's harsh.
It was a big gamble, but it worked. Back then, people already had certain ideas about women, like Priscilla. They brought up her past relationships, her medications, trying to paint her as unreliable.
Like she was making it all up. Did they have proof?
Not really, just rumors and insinuations, but it was enough to confuse people, make the jury unsure.
I see. They were playing dirty. What about the prosecution? Did they have a strong case?
On paper, yeah. They had two eyewitnesses, Priscilla and Bev Bass. Both said they saw Cullen.
And they hadn't even talked to each other before.
Exactly. It's hard to explain that away. And then, of course, there's the motive. Cullen was angry about the divorce, about losing money.
Right. Didn't they also find evidence at the scene that linked him to the murders?
They did, but Haynes was good at downplaying that stuff. He threw out other ideas, said maybe Stan Farr, the boyfriend, was the real target.
Why would he say that?
Hinted that Farr was involved in shady business. Made it seem like someone else wanted him dead. It was a distraction tactic.
To take the focus off Cullen. Clever. Okay, what about Cullen's alibi? Didn't he say he was somewhere else during the murders?
He did. A woman named Karen Masters said they were together. In bed, actually.
At the exact time of the murders.
That's what she said, but her story was all over the place. She hadn't told the police this before, and she kept changing her story.
So, not very believable. It sounds like the defense was throwing everything they could at the wall, hoping something would stick. Did anything else crazy happen?
Yeah, years later, a woman came forward, said she saw the real killer. but it was totally out there. No one believed her.
Sounds like another distraction. So we've got a weak alibi, attacks on the victims, and a defense lawyer working overtime to plant seeds of doubt. What was it like in the courtroom?
It was intense. The trial went on forever, months and months. The media was obsessed with it. Everyone wanted to know what would happen.
It's easy to get caught up in the drama. But we can't forget what this was really about. A little girl who was murdered. Her mother. Her boyfriend.
It's a tragedy. And during the trial, while all this legal stuff was happening, they were reliving that trauma, especially Priscilla.
That's just awful. So the jury starts deliberating and everyone's waiting. What was the verdict?
It was a shocker. They found Colin Davis not guilty on all charges.
Wait, what? Not guilty. After all that, the eyewitnesses, the bad alibi. How?
Yeah, it was huge. It blew everyone's minds. Some people saw it as a clear example of money buying justice. Others thought maybe the prosecution just didn't prove their case well enough.
Reasonable doubt, right? That's how our system works.
It is. If the jury has any doubts, they have to say not guilty.
So even with all the evidence against him, they weren't convinced. What happened after the verdict?
Cullen was ecstatic, of course, threw a huge party to celebrate. It was like he didn't even care about what happened.
Wow, that's bold.
Like he was untouchable, above the law. Priscilla, though, she was devastated. Her daughter was dead, her boyfriend was dead, and the man she believed was responsible was free.
A terrible outcome. But I remember you said there's another twist to this story.
Oh yeah, there's more. And it's even crazier.
So Cullen walks free, parties it up, seemingly gets away with everything. You'd think that would be the end of it. But there's more, right? Another crazy twist.
Oh yeah. 9 months later, Cullen's back in the news. But this time, well, it's even more shocking than before.
What could be more shocking than being accused of double murder?
He got arrested again. And this time, it wasn't just accusations.
What do you mean?
They caught him red-handed, trying to hire a hitman.
A hitman? Seriously. Who is he going after?
Multiple people, actually. The judge from his divorce case.
No way.
Yeah, Judge Eidson and his wife, too.
That's cold.
Yeah.
It's like he wanted to eliminate anyone who was a threat. But how did they catch him?
The FBI was onto him. Someone tipped them off that Cullen was planning this, so they set up a sting.
A sting operation?
Yeah. They had an undercover agent pretend to be a hitman.
Like in the movies.
I know, right? And they got everything on tape. Cullen talking about who he wanted dead, how he wanted it done.
So they had his voice on tape, ordering a hit.
Clear as day. And to really sell it, the FBI even faked some photos, made it look like Judge Eidson was dead.
They faked his death. That's intense.
They showed Cullen the photos, and he didn't even flinch. He was like, okay, good, who's next?
Seriously. He wasn't even worried. What was he thinking?
Right.
Did he really believe he was above the law?
It's hard to say. Maybe it was arrogance. Maybe he truly believed his money could protect him. Or maybe he just didn't care. Like, other people's lives didn't matter to him.
It's a scary thought. So what happened? Surely this time he went to jail.
Well, you'd think, right, they had him dead to rights. But remember Racehorse Haynes, Cullen's lawyer?
Oh, yeah, the legal superstar. He was back for round 2.
He was, and this time his defense was even more unbelievable.
What could he possibly say?
Cullen claimed he was set up, said the informant tricked him into thinking Priscilla was behind it all.
Blaming Priscilla again?
Yep, said he was just playing along to protect himself like he was the real victim.
But they had him on tape.
You'd think that would be enough, right? But somehow, Haynes managed to create enough doubt.
No way.
I know, it's crazy. And get this, the jury found Cullen Davis not guilty. Again!
Seriously. Not guilty. Twice. How is that even possible?
It's hard to understand. Maybe the jury was confused, or maybe Haynes was just that good. Whatever the reason, Cullen walked free. Again. He ended up marrying Karen Masters, the alibi witness from the first trial. And get this, he became super religious, even held this big event where he destroyed all his expensive stuff, said he found God.
It's almost too much. After everything he did, he just got to reinvent himself.
Yep. He never spent a single day in jail for the murders at Stonegate Mansion or for trying to hire a hitman. He lived a free man. It's a reminder that money and power can really make a difference, even when it seems like justice should be clear.
And what about Priscilla? What happened to her?
It's sad. Priscilla never really got justice for her daughter. She lived with that pain for the rest of her life, knowing the man she believed was responsible was out there, free.
It's a heartbreaking ending to a truly unbelievable story. It really makes you think about a lot of things. About money, power, the justice system.
Absolutely. It shows how complicated these things can be. It reminds us that we have to be vigilant, keep fighting for justice, even when it feels impossible, and to remember the victims, the people whose lives were forever changed by these events.
If anyone wants to learn more, there's a lot of information out there about this case. Search for pictures of Stonegate Mansion. You can see how they lived, the world Cullen and Priscilla were a part of.
There are documentaries too, articles about the trials, about the legal strategies. It's a fascinating case, but it's also a tragic one.
We always say it, but it's true. Keep digging, keep asking questions, and never stop searching for the truth, no matter how difficult it might be.